Hey everyone, Geoffrey here, and today I have David here with me. And David joined the program February 8th of 2022. And I think you'll find his story quite amazing. And I think, David, you've been known or you have this reputation now in the program as one of the what we call the A plus players, where I think a lot of people look to you for mentorship besides me. And it's an amazing one because when we investigate your depth of knowledge from the program and how much change you've made into your life, into your relationship, and how much that has affected your partner too, it's such an amazing story. So I can't wait to get deeper into this. But as always, start where let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I believe this all started late 2021. Your partner, you said it was, you've been married for 8 years at that point in time. Your mother, you are a dad of two children. So you have two children together.
Yeah.
And she came to you and said she was depressed. Start there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was about October, October sometime 2021. And she came to me and we had a funny conversation where she almost sounded like she was going to talk about, I'm not feeling it as a parent. I don't think that I'm a very good mom anymore. And I don't think that this is me. I think I'm supposed to be a career person. And then my angle was, okay, this is really out of the blue. I didn't realize anything was wrong. And it did blindside me a little bit, but my approach then was the same as it had always been, which is like, okay, let me see if I can help. Let me see if I can fix this and support her as much as possibly could. Tidy little bit of context and everything to that. And I'm sure that probably a lot of people in the program will have similar stories, but there were COVID lockdowns going on. My parents were stuck staying with us for, I think, 6 months, stuck staying in the same house as us. Her business was going nuts because there were so many home delivery orders and things happening because of COVID. And so she was working like 60-hour plus weeks every week. And the person that I'd known since I think I met her 12 years ago almost, the person I'd known almost started to disappear. It felt like a new person that I was living with. And we still sort of tried to, have a nice, normal, fun time. There's still intimacy and still, go and get coffee and be kind to each other and hug and kiss and these kinds of things, but something wrong. So you could feel it. You could feel something wrong. You could feel her pulling away and heading in another direction.
Yeah.
That was where we were.
So I think December 12th, that was when, for lack of a better word, shit hit the fan.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
About that. Yeah.
It did a little bit. What happened on that day? I was in the kitchen. I think I was, doing the dishes, and she started talking about more of that same thing of like, I'm not feeling this whole being a mum thing. I'm not feeling this whole being in the family thing. I don't think this is important to me. I think my work's more important to me. And my angle was just, balance. Can't we have both? Maybe you just need to work a little bit less, or maybe we can figure out, hire somebody to take over some of the managing. And she was very, very unhappy. And like, in the terms of the program now, I see it as it was strong resistance, and it was misinterpreting a little bit of that. My intentions there were trying to help and trying to kind of sort of find a way that she can be happier. And her interpretation of it was, this person is on a different planet. This person doesn't get me. This person doesn't understand what I've been going through. This person doesn't know how hard I'm working. This person doesn't know how hard I'm trying. This, all this.
Yeah, and that's actually the first point I want to make later, is that I think what's happening here. So just to recap, guys. So late 2021, that was when she first told you, or you first recognized what she was telling you, which was, I feel depressed. I don't feel like I want to be a mother anymore. And it looks like a midlife crisis almost.
Oh, yeah.
And then in December 12th, 2021, that was when you actually found out that she was having an affair, seeing someone else at that point. And so that was when your world kind of collapsed. And I think the first point I want to make later on is how I think the first time she told you this thing, that was her kind of testing the waters because she felt so unsafe. That was her giving you the light version of what actually happened.
100%.
She couldn't tell you the real, like, full-on premium paid version of what was happening.
No, there was no safety there. Yeah.
Right. And then, so when she told you that small thing, you reacted in the ways that told her basically, I don't think this guy's going to get it.
No,
and so
100%.
I think throughout this couple of months, she was trying to give you more and more and more until she said finally, you know what? Let's not hide this anymore.
Yeah.
Let me give you the full version here. This is
that's right.
This is what I've been trying to get you to see the whole time, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. and I mean, the way that it happened on that day was more toxic than that, even because that conversation happened. She went outside, and she was on the phone quite a bit, and I thought, is she on the phone too? And super toxic, very needy, very controlling, very tethered. I thought something's up. And later that night, I looked at her phone.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Not a good thing to do. Not a good thing to do. And so I looked at her phone, found out, confronted her about it, and the feeling from her side once it came out was she was almost sort of like, okay, so now you know. And I was expecting a lot more than that, but the emotions and the feeling from her side was so flat because she had gotten to that point where the plane had crashed a long time ago. To use one of Topher's analogies from the group, like, I was still thinking the plane's flying and I got to try and pull up. I got to try and control this situation. No, the plane crashed a long time ago. And she's like, and now you know we've crashed.
But she already processed the feelings. She already processed the guilt. She already processed the loss, the sense of loss. And you were just finding out after the fact. It was flatlined already. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you were obviously very devastated. She was very numb.
Yeah. How
done was she at this point? Like, what went through your mind? Like, how done was it in your mind for you?
It felt very much like the rug being ripped out, because it was sort of, the whole relationship had been this quite a romantic thing in my mind and like quite a loving thing in my mind. And then how done was she? I think that she was very, very much thinking to herself that I do not love this person and I'm very in love with someone else. I think David's a nice guy. David's a nice guy. David is the father of my kids. He's caring. He provides all these things. He will always look after me. But I am not in love with this guy.
There's no, like,
pretty done.
Yeah, it's more of, I care about, like, people say I love you, but I'm not in love with you. It's saying I care about you as a person. I still want you to be happy, but I don't see us as a romantic partner. I don't see us as a life partner. I don't see it, honestly. So that spark completely has gone away. And I think the shocking part for you, I remember you telling me too, was like, if you backtrack 6 months before this event, everything felt normal. And not only that, exactly. I think there was no overt bad behavior from your side where you weren't like having any addictions, having any, like, I don't think people outside could have looked at your relationship and go, oh, that's why she left you.
Yeah, like, that's right.
So
that's right. But I mean, like, we might get to this as we go on, but I now look back and see all the reasons how we got there. And that, thank you for this program, because that awareness of, I mean, it's you talk a lot about failure's success, and I had failure's success in a big way. That was my marriage was failure success. I had found an 11. Like, she's gorgeous, she's perfect, she's clever, she's hardworking, she's affectionate, she's just drop dead gorgeous. I found an 11, and I was just lucky. And then I couldn't figure out how to keep that going. I didn't know anything about safety. I didn't know anything about admiration.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about goal alignment.
Yeah. And I think what made it worse too also was she said at this point, I actually never loved you. I actually when I chose you, I actually settled.
Oh yes, indeed.
That must have burned a lot, right? It's like, okay, I thought this last 8 years has been great for my side.
Yeah.
I thought we were affectionate. I thought we were loving. I thought I was a good husband. I thought all these things. And then she tells you for the 8 years, all these 8 years, the memories you have, it's all made up by you. Because I didn't feel the same way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, it was absolutely a sledgehammer blow to the face. It was that she'd essentially described it as back in like 2016 or something, I think, she'd ran into an ex and had some spark again and gone, I had coffee with this guy that I haven't seen for how many, like 6 years, and I felt something. That must mean I don't love David. And then that stewed in her mind, and there was no safety. No safety.
You couldn't talk about it with you. So it was just like stewing in her mind in whatever direction she wants to go without you having any say, basically, in this whole thing, right?
100%.
Yeah.
No safety to talk about it. And then no safety to talk about goal alignment and all these kinds of things and admiration. And so that feeling of, at the beginning, that kind of like all the things that glued us together, all the admiration that we did have, was never as intense as she had felt for that ex that she ran into again. Like that was the guy who looks like a movie star and, the whole thing. So that was the competition, and I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
But
so, okay. So guys, like, pause here for a bit, right? Because I get so many people, okay? Like, it's just the weirdest question I get, which is like, this is my situation. Can you help me? Is there hope? Can I do this? And I'm like, dude, like, think about how absurd it is for you to ask that question, right? Like, I always tell people too, do you know how many people we enroll every single year? 1,500 plus. Of those 1,500, how many do you think wait until things are very dire before seeking my help? Pretty much all of them. You did.
Oh yeah, it was.
And I ask people like, what do you think dire means? Well, dire is David's situation right here. Imagine, right? Like, you're married for 8 years. Your wife has already decided to see someone else. Like, she's gone already, right? Yeah. Call it an affair, get angry or whatever. She doesn't care anymore, right? She's like, whatever. I left a long time ago, right? And even if you can berate her and blame her and saying like, oh, you're unfaithful or whatever it is, all she's going to say is, okay, I already knew that. What next? Right? I already hard settled with that. I already accepted that. So it's this hopelessness of like, the feeling is grasping air sometimes. It's you're pushed off a cliff and you're trying to grab onto something, but there's nothing to grab onto.
That's right.
It's such a hopeless feeling, right? And so that's the pause there, guys, and just think about this is how it started, okay, for David. Yeah. And if you look at any of my client stories, that's how it starts too.
Yeah. See them every week. See them come in every week.
Every week. We enroll like 30, 40 people a week, and it's always the same story. So
and they're always going like this.
Oh, I'm so unique. But anyway, you joined the program February 8th. So that was a couple of months or just over a month after this whole bomb dropped, basically.
Yeah.
And I think when you joined the program, that was when you first realized, that failure success that you were experiencing, which was, I was making so many blind spot mistakes, I didn't even know it.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then, but let's contrast it to how things are like now. So we're recording November 5th, 2022. So almost a year after you joined.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Wow. Okay. Things are. I never imagined life could. So I mean, I was saying this to my wife yesterday. We were sitting on the balcony. As she became depressed and everything, she started taking up smoking again. She hasn't smoked for years and years. But so we sit on the balcony and she has a smoke and I have a little vape and a coffee and we just chat pretty much every day now. And the average for us is like we'll chat for a good half hour or something. And to me, like that's incredible. We didn't do that in the past. For a start, we didn't have enough stuff to chat about for half an hour. we didn't. I didn't tune into her enough. I didn't tune into anybody enough. So this program has not just helped with my life. This program's helped with everything. But I tune into people now, and I think empathetically, and I'm kind of like, I see where she's up to with everything. And a lot of the affection and the warmth has come back. She moved back home. So, I mean, I think it was about May.
Yeah.
It's about May that she moved out. And I helped her and I empowered her through that whole process. And I moved furniture into her new apartment for her.
I know.
And
I remember you telling me the story. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, but this is somebody that I love and I admire. And there wouldn't be any possibility of rebuilding this thing if I didn't admire this person, all of the great traits. And through that whole, thank you for all of that about self-victimization. Because if I want to kind of nail like any one part that's helped get me to here, it's that getting rid of that victim mindset. Getting rid of that, we were in, I'm kind of jumping around here. I'm going to stop jumping around. I'm going to go back to February, right? February, I joined the program. I'm extremely tethered. I am extremely outcome driven. I'm going through the program as quickly as I possibly can to try and get a result. It's urgent. I have to figure this all out before I go back home. We're in South Korea. We're going to be there for about a month. It's a family, probably what I thought at the time, the last family holiday ever, right? And I'm rushing through the program, and I essentially managed to record my first auto suggestions in a couple of weeks and start to program my mind out of that victim mindset and start to program my mind out of being tethered. And then we can start having these really good conversations where I can listen to her and I cannot apply any judgments to what she's saying. And I cannot come at it from my angle and like what I want to convince her. It's just simply, let's keep getting to the bottom of this and like what happened?
Yeah. So I think
talk till 3 a.m.
Yeah, just to wrap up, right? It's like you guys are having the deepest conversations ever. Yeah. She moved back in after moving out shortly before.
Yeah.
You guys are going on dates again.
Oh yeah.
Talking about the future again.
Yeah.
I mean, and you share sometimes some of the loving texts that she sends you out of the blue, which is awesome too. I love that. So by every definition of word, like we can place labels all we want, right? Reconciled or not, who cares? It's like, this is what a couple, this is how a couple behaves. This is the thing that I never believe about other coaches' stories, right? They paint reconciliation as this moment when like, boom, I woke up this day and everything's fine now. But the reality is that if you have been married for 8 years, and those 8 years for your partner has been very, very traumatic, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Even when you reconcile, there's still going to be baggage. There's still going to be a lot of second guessing. There's still going to be a lot of like difficult moments, a lot of trauma that you have to go through. Same thing, right? Even for me, like I was with my partner for 4 years at that point in time. And from the trauma of those for 4 years, we're still sometimes fixing and going through some of those growing pains and healing pains, stuff like that.
Yeah,
not as much anymore, but even now we're, almost over 8 years in, we're still going through kind of the same things, So don't feel guilty about that, right? Like people need to understand that when coaches say, "Oh, I reconciled or not," that's BS. And when people say
BS,
it's absolute BS, how do you even measure that? Like,
no.
And second too is if you think reconciliation is a moment when nothing else goes wrong, and that's also bad, right? But also, a lot of people think, well, if relationships are going to be, if I save this relationship and it be really hard forever, or really hard for a long time, then what's the point of saving it? But that's you missing the point too. Because if you're saying that
forever.
Right. If you're saying that, realize that that's the exact reason why you fell into the trap of destroying this relationship in the first place, because you think everything's fine. But reality is that whenever two people come together, it's always going to be challenging. There's always going to be challenges. So if you say, I do not want to have this challenge, you're also saying, I do not want a relationship.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because if you met
mean,
someone else, it's the same story, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this whole thing of finish line, there is no finish line. And I mean, as she moved back in, and as she came back to this side, so I mean, knowing that there is still this other guy that she cares about, and she's actually making a conscious decision now of her own. I was thinking like another 6 months before she would move back home. I was like, things were going great. Like we were having a great time. We were talking all the time, and everything's going really, really well. But I didn't expect her to actually say, I'm going to start pushing this person away and try and come back. But then to your point about that whole finish line, when she came home, I mentioned that in the group because it's part of my story and I'm just talking about what's going on. And I mentioned that and everyone's like, hooray, the end. And I'm like, no, guys, calm down. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
This is the beginning. And I mean,
the way I see it is it's almost an interesting thing, right? Where, when you look at the relationship breaking down and she met this other guy, right? So she was with this guy, but she made you the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was the main guy, you were the other guy. Now it's sort of the opposite where you're the main guy, he's the other guy. but it takes a while to just let that whole thing go. We talk about this in the program as surrender, for her to surrender to the decision to come back to you and so on. Yeah.
It's a shame I haven't done it yet. I just haven't had time with work and everything, but I'm planning on getting a tattoo that says effort and surrender. It needs to be tattooed on everybody, I think. I think if we just hold people down and tattoo it on them until they get it. Yeah. Yeah. Effort and surrender. It's everything. It's great.
And I think that's a concept that's so hard for people to understand, because even when we're talking now, right? Even people in the program where we say, my partner chose me now, right? And the thing in their mind is always going into, okay, that means you're closer to the finish line. You're closer to the finish line. But they're always thinking about this finish line, right? And that's the mindset people have, is whenever they are resolving issues, whenever they're resolving their relationship, reconciling in a big sense, or even like solving small problems, they're always thinking about, forget the process. I don't really care about the process. I just want to see, is it getting us to the summit or no? Yeah. And I can't wait for the time I can get to the summit, right? Yeah. But that mindset itself, right, of you being so outcome oriented like that, is why your partner cannot feel safe with you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because they can feel you urging things in that direction every step of the way and trying to take away their agency. They can feel that. And as soon as you feel yourself doing that, you have to say, oh, that's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
I'm not wanting to do that. I have no interest in driving things towards conclusion, because I'm about building this for the long term. This is, if I can, just an analogy of that. You always talk, Geoffrey, about farmer's mindset, right? You don't want to be a hunter. You don't want to be going after your partner like a hunter, trying to, put the meat on the table today. Right. I got to feed myself today. No, forget that. Farmer, you want to slowly plant seeds. You want to water them. You want to look after them. You want to, frost, protect everything from the frost. You want to be a farmer. You want to slowly build it up day by day. But when it comes to that finish line thing, right? Do you think a farmer harvests all his crops and then goes, oh, what an excellent farm I have, and then puts their feet up and then does nothing? Mate, no, they're already thinking about next year. They're already getting ready to plant the next, they
realize that the hard work during, before harvest and after harvest is the same. It's the same amount of work.
Exactly.
And the way I see this too is also, not only is when you are outcome oriented like that, not only is it going to make everything you do very fishy, very suspicious, like you said, but think about the internal implications of this. If I am a person who, like for you, for example, right? If you were trying so hard to get this outcome, to paint this picture in your mind, in other people's mind, that you have reached the summit and you have achieved the perfect relationship, right? But the reality of your relationship is that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody's is perfect. So what happens? When your partner tells you, when you discover something that suggests that it's not perfect, you instantly get insecure. You instantly get frustrated. You instantly get annoyed. You instantly feel inconvenienced.
Yeah.
And this is why I think your partner was trying to tell you for so long on what's happening with the relationship, but you couldn't see it because you were in denial. And you had to be in
100%.
denial. Because if you
100%.
accepted that something was wrong, then that means you're accepting that you're not in the summit. And that's a big ego blow.
This was me. Like 100% this was me. Like I didn't grow up thinking of myself as somebody with a big ego, but throughout the course of the relationship, I did tie a lot of my worth and my, ego and stuff to my partner, my, gorgeous partner, so proud of and tell everyone about everywhere I go, kind of thing. I tied a huge amount of my worth to that, tied a huge amount of my worth to my house and my job and all these kinds of things. Yeah, and 100%. It's not a good way to be. I mean, somewhere in the program, I think around like phase 4, when I started getting into, finding your worth from within and that kind of self-esteem stuff, that has been amazingly helpful because it kind of creates a positive loop feeding back into helping you untether, because you're no longer worried about outcomes because you're confident and happy in yourself. One, you don't need anything. Oh, I want stuff. I want this. I want that. Do I need it right now? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Genuinely good.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's none of that kind of like your thoughts getting dragged back towards what you don't have all the time, constantly thinking about it. You can just continue on your process and knowing that you're going to end up with wonderful things in the end.
No, it's like, I have a couple of analogies for this too. It's almost like, if you ever played video games, right? Let's say you play like an RPG game. What if someone says, oh, I hate the whole part where you have to shoot all these enemies and like face all this drama and have all these difficulties. I hate that part. You know what I like? You know what I love? I love the end credits of the game. When I finish the game, the end credits, oh yeah, that's the best feeling ever. It's like, if that's what you like, then you shouldn't have played the game. Like, you missed the whole point of the game. The whole point of the game is to fight and go through all this drama. The same thing for relationships, right? If you're just looking for that time when things are finished and you hate all this journey of like getting there,
100%.
you missed the whole point. Same thing for hiking.
100%.
Hiking too. I went hiking one time, right? And then during the hike, I remember it was like a 6-hour hike, and all I can think about was the summit. Oh, it'd be so nice once I get there. It'd be so nice once I get there. Then I get to the summit and I realize, oh, it's just nothing. It's so anticlimactic. And I realized they call it hiking for a freaking reason. Because it's about the hiking.
It's not called summiting.
It's not summiting. It's about the hiking. I just missed the whole thing. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what it is. It's loving the process. It's sourcing your happiness, your joy, your addiction to the process, not getting the outcome. 100%. Sourcing your ego to the process, not the outcome. Your motivation to the process, not the outcome. And that's a very radical shift for people.
It's so good though once you make it, right? It's so good. Like, I mean, because every day I've got this total, like, not attached to outcomes. And then my wife will come home and we'll be hanging out, and I'm just, frameworks and chatting with her and getting all the feels out and sharing my feelings and everything and feeling all that catharsis, because I could do that now because we have that psychological safety. She'll listen to my day with interest. She'll listen to me talk about nerdy stuff. She would have switched off in the past.
Yeah.
She has enough admiration and enough psychological safety to just be like, that's cool. That's interesting. Maybe we should watch that together one day. Like, what?
Yeah.
So this is the hike is the good stuff, but you have to be focused enough on it. You know, like as you're walking along on the hikes, smell the flowers, man. Like, fuck the summit. Smell the flowers on the walk.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important also for people to understand, if, let's say, you are having a hard time staying motivated, if you're having a hard time keeping your bulletproof vest on, keeping calm and being patient when your partner is telling you all these very tough things,
Yeah.
If your partner's not really believing what you're saying, believing your changes, the problem is usually you're still very tethered. And
Yeah.
that tetheredness is causing you to feel that insecurity, to feel that desire to play out all these defense mechanisms.
100%.
It's causing you to rush things, which prevents you from actually digging deeper to truly understand and make her feel understood. Right? When you rush things like that, people can smell it from a mile away. It's like, oh, you're just doing this to get this outcome. I can smell it from a mile away. And also the biggest thing is, people make decisions via emotions.
They do. Yeah.
So you can try to rush your partner to coming back to you because you are driven by this need to achieve the summit as soon as possible. But when you make it faster for someone, when you try to rush someone, it actually takes the emotions away. Logically, they might understand it, but emotionally, they're going to go, I feel pushed.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I can't think about this. I can't process this. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Like in a big way. And this is one of the things that's been like a very frequent topic. My wife and I recently is that whenever she feels, not even me pushing her, but if the universe is pushing her to come back. So for example, like if she has some money trouble or, she's worried that her parents are going to come visit us in Australia soon or something like that. And they'll probably see everything that's going on. This situation, the universe around her pushing her to come back, as soon as she feels that kind of, it's tethering, right? It's the same outcome focus. And as soon as she starts to focus on those outcomes, she can't focus on her process. The admiration and things that we're building is covered up. Yeah. So if I can't create an environment where she doesn't have, if I can't use my processes to create that environment where she feels no pressure, where she feels free to make her own choice in her own time, she actually tethers up and pulls away herself.
And let me tell you why that is. This is an analogy I've been thinking about a lot. And they call it falling in love for a reason, right? Because you fall in love. So I want you to imagine there's a few parts of life where we fall into something. We fall asleep, right? We fall into rest. We fall into rest. We don't work towards rest. We don't work towards sleep. In fact, the more you try to work towards sleep, the more you try to work towards rest, the more you cannot sleep, the more you cannot rest.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of saying the same thing, which is like a lot of men, a lot of people, they try to force this feeling of love to happen. They force it. They work towards love. But that's not how love happens. The same way, that's not how sleep happens or rest happens, right? For sleep to happen, you need to let go of that sense of the outcome, working towards the outcome, and you just have to surrender to the process.
Yeah.
If you surrender to the process, you can fall asleep, you can rest. Same thing for falling in love. I think that's a freaking genius analogy because I think people can resonate with that. People have insomnia before.
100%. I mean, and it is for people might be because I mean, until you see something with your own eyes, until you feel it, until you experience it, people are sort of stuck in doing things the way they've always done them, even though that's what got them their results, right? And a lot of people might sort of hear that and think, I don't know, like I feel like looking at her right now, looking at my partner right now, she looks like she's going to need a lot of urging and a lot of cajoling to get. No. Going back to that farmer's mindset, following your process, it's really just if you plant those seeds and then look after them and don't shit up the field, don't come along and mess everything up, then eventually it grows. I mean, like I think I planted some seeds, and you often say something similar, like I planted seeds 2 years ago and then my partner is only just getting it now.
Yeah.
And it's the same, definitely the same here. I find that I can have a conversation about surrender and a conversation about how admiration is supposed to work and how we might build that. And she'll go away and be very skeptical perhaps at first, and we'll do a little bit backwards and forwards, but I'll let her just sit with it. And she'll come back to me and say, hey, I think I'm surrendering to admiration to you.
Yeah.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
That's a seed that went, and it's sprouted now.
Sprouting now. That's a wonderful analogy, and that's a wonderful example too of that. It's, even for me too. It's when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships, it's when I coach even clients sometimes, right? I coach someone. If they're not ready to take that coaching, I'm like, I'm not gonna shove it down your throat. It's fine. But eventually, like you said, the truth prevails. It might take some time for the truth to prevail, but eventually it will prevail. And on that note, right, I want to dive deeper into this concept of urgency that you felt. Because I think when you first joined the program, you were like most people, and you feel this urgency to cajole your partner to do something. It's the illusion of action of like, I need to do something. The fact that I'm just sitting back, working on myself seems so wrong. Like, it seems so passive. It seems like I should be moving right now, right? Is that what you felt in the beginning?
Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to do something. Just screaming at me, like, go over there and hit the guy, make her feel like, remind her of all the times that we had, show her family photos, gotta fix this right now, like before we go back home. Like that time, that first week or so in Korea was like the intense urgency. And there certainly have been times where since then there have been moments of urgency, but it's just one of those illusions, isn't it? It's one of those things that once you realize that's all it is, it's your mind wanting to attach to an outcome and wanting to worry about whether I get it now. If I don't get it now, then it's never. That's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Because now we've gotten to a point, like if I can contrast it and polarize it a little bit to how we are now, she'll be talking about wanting to come back, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And I'll be the one reminding her, there's no rush.
Yeah, so you're actually the one saying like, oh, I see her trying to rush coming back to me. And you're saying, you know what? Hold on. Like, I want to make sure that you're sure. I want to make sure that you're sure, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I akin this to like imagining this journey is like being lighthouses, right? So at first, she went to your lighthouse because she was the brightest, you were the brightest lighthouse she could find. Then maybe she finds another lighthouse that is much brighter, much nicer. She goes, oh, I don't know. Now she feels conflicted, right? It's like, oh, I'm leaving familiar territory here and I'm going into the unknown. I don't know. So at first it's like, he's the other guy. He's the other lighthouse. You're the main guy still, but then eventually he becomes the main guy. You become the other lighthouse. And it goes back again, right? Now, when people feel urgency, what they're trying to do is they're trying to attach a rope to that boat and go, come here, right? Come here. But the problem is, even if you pull her boat in, you don't think she's still going to be thinking every single day of her life
about,
oh, I want to go there. I want to go to the other lighthouse, right?
100%.
100%. So even if you find the urgent stuff, the perfect words, the perfect things to do to get her back in the short term, we call this fake reconciliation or reconciliation without surrender. And people like Andrew Wade have felt into this. A lot of people have fell into this as well. They realize, oh, shoot, 3 months later, she wants to leave and she's now going to do a ploy to leave more covertly, to leave with a speedboat maybe. It's like, oh, it's like, I'm going to the pet anymore. Right?
We get the hell out of here. Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And I mean, my wife and I, we talked quite a bit about this whole thing and what reconciliation might look like and what we kind of want for it. Like basically we talked a lot about win-wins and what those win-wins might look like. And one of the wins, believe it or not, to people who are maybe not in the group yet or just watching your videos and haven't signed up, but one of the wins is she ends up with the other guy. I learn a lot from the experience. We are the best friends with amazing communication, ready to co-parent, divide our assets without fighting like little bitches. And I now have all these amazing skills, self-esteem, and total freedom to pursue anybody I want. I'm going to go meet Miranda Kerr, I think, or something like that. And that's that's one win, right? Yeah. It's a win-win for both of us. Yeah. We're both happy. other win-win is obviously we get back together and the relationship is more amazing than it ever was in the past because the communication is so much better, and the admiration we can build at this time because we actually know that that's a thing, and we can build goal alignment, which I also didn't really. I understood goal alignment in like a 3-year-old kind of a my way or the highway sort of a thing. So I mean, it's going to be better. It'll be a win-win. We'll make it happen. That's another win, and then another one altogether. I mean, like there are all these possibilities. So the urgency kind of goes away, and it's just an interesting thing that's happened recently that I haven't actually posted about in the group yet.
Yeah.
I've just been busy. But my wife actually had a look at the dating apps because I've been looking at the dating apps.
Mhm.
I don't know how much we want to get into that whole thing, but I've been looking at the dating apps, and she was curious how it worked. And she wanted to see kind of how it works when I'm doing it. So I'm like, well, show you how it works and everything. She's now kind of less tethered to her affair partner. She's less tethered to him because in her mind, she always had this fear of like, what if it doesn't work with him? Then it's back to David or misery and loneliness forever because I'm not going to meet the one. He was the one.
Let's dive into that. This is a
let's dive into that. Sure.
That's a radically different philosophy of how people look at things, but I think the way people look at things now is wreaking so much havoc in relationships. So let's break it down, right? But before I do that, I want to just like recap this whole like lighthouse analogy of if you have this urgency illusion, again, if you are trying to pull that boat in, all you're doing is just pulling the boat in, but she still wanted to get out emotionally, right? The only way you can do is like what David is doing, what all my clients are doing is like, well, if your lighthouse is not the brightest, time to be the brightest fucking lighthouse. That's it. Yeah. That's the only thing you can do. And then make it her own decision to come back. Not you make her come back. She wants to come back herself. Now let's talk 100%. About this affair thing. Or like this concept of like seeing other people, etc. So let me start with my story for a bit, right? Because I used to subscribe to this notion that if you allow your partner to have an affair, you're a fucking beta male. You're a fucking simp. Something is wrong with you. You are some weak ass bitch, basically, right? How dare you allow your partner to do that to you? Like, the fuck is wrong with you, right? If your partner wants to do that, then you need to get out of there. You know? But now that I look back, right? So my partner had an affair. And just like your story, because she had an affair, I did too. I was like, you want to see other people? Oh, maybe I'll go see other people too. Yeah. And my story was also very similar to yours in that we eventually started to see us seeing other people not as a bad thing, but as a good thing. Because here, right, the problem with most relationships is that they come together. But it's almost like they come together out of need or out of settling or out of like this notion of like, I don't have any more options anyway.
Yes.
At that point in time, especially. So then from then on, they get married and they feel stuck forever. Yeah. And they have these thoughts, like, to be honest, like a lot of people have the thoughts of like, oh, what if I considered another relationship? But it's so taboo that they can't even entertain that thought. They just push it under the rug. It's like, oh, you don't even think about that. Don't even think about that. What's wrong with you for thinking about that? But the reality is that no matter how much you push it back, the feeling remains. The feeling of like, what if? And that dissatisfaction, even though it's subconscious, it manifests itself in a lot of arguments and a lot of like bitter feelings and a lot of bad assumptions. It's bad. It's really bad. Yeah. Now, am I asking all couples to just like explore? No, right? But if you're in a position where your partner wants to explore another relationship, having an affair, for example, know that that desire was caused by your crappiness. Yep,
100%.
Right?
100%.
So if you weren't crappy in the first place, there wouldn't even be that desire in the first place.
That is definitely right. I mean, like, this is the thing, is I was saying to my wife yesterday that I genuinely look at this whole thing as a gift because the amount of leveling up I have done in the last year is insane. And this is leveling up in ways that I didn't even know I needed to level up in. So it's that kind of Dunning-Kruger effect of like not knowing how not knowing how shitty crap, not even knowing how you're not meeting the standard, not even realizing how dissatisfied you could be in a relationship. And I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice as well in this way, because like you said, like if I'm not being my best for her, she's having these thoughts, and then she's not being her best for me, so I'm having these thoughts, and no one's happy in that scenario.
And you know what's funny too, right? So like we're trying to tell people basically, if your partner wants to have an affair or is having an affair, we're saying don't blame them, look within. Because if, let's say, you go and blame her, then you're not going to learn something. Life is trying to tell you. Life is trying to tell you right now, you are not the brightest lighthouse, dude. Yeah. Your lighthouse is dim as fuck. Right? Yeah. You need to change your light bulbs or something. You got to do something.
Yeah.
But if you are saying, things, probably. If like other people are leaving your lighthouse to go to another, and you're going like, you're shooting from the window, you assholes.
Yeah.
That's not gonna want to make him come back. That's gonna make him go, oh shit, I'm out of there.
Yeah. Run faster now.
Run faster.
Was it jet boat?
But you know what's funny though? People who do that, people who get so upset when their partner's leaving because and having an affair, do you notice they're always the ones who always seems to get cheated on all the time?
Oh yeah.
Like it's legit. Like, like it's very rare for someone to get cheated on once. Or like left once. It's like it's a serial thing. And then, but what's worse is like when so many people leave, they never go, "What's wrong with me?" They go, "What's wrong with all these people?" So let me just stop dating, right? Let me just stop it. Don't even get married anymore. I'm like, whatever. Marriage sucks. It's like, dude, how blind can you be, right? But what we're saying too is also, if you take it upon yourself to say like, "Hey, I'm not the brightest lighthouse here, so my turn to build a brighter lighthouse," and you allow your partner to kind of explore and you explore as well. We are in a position now in our relationship where it's hard to describe how good it is, right? Because we're finally at a point where we've tried other lighthouses, right? And during the time we tried other lighthouses, we grew and made our own lighthouses brighter. And so now we realize that we are the brightest lighthouse in the freaking hood.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. This is definitely what's happening here as well. It's that feeling of she said like this makes her feel way less tethered to that one outcome of this or that, but also that feeling of like her lighthouse is getting brighter, my lighthouse is getting brighter, and this kind of whole thing of choosing you even though I know that I have options, and you're choosing me even though that you have options, and then the admiration builds on that of like looking at each other as valuable.
I know.
She's looking at me now. Like she actually said, like when I went on a date a couple of weeks ago or something, she said that she's seeing me less as like the provider and husband and kind of like the dad to the kids and like this kind of like nuts and bolts, and actually like seeing me in an emotional way. Yeah. Seeing me again as the guy that she met, reminding her of that guy that she met 12 years ago.
It's funny. It's the same thing for us too, because like when she was exploring, I was exploring. The more we brightened our lighthouse, and the more other people we saw, were like, seeing other people doesn't make me want to see other people. It makes me want my partner more. It makes me want Samantha more. And I think Samantha was saying that to me too. It's like, actually makes me want to surrender more. And it's a funny thing, right? It's like, I always say, if you're afraid of giving someone space, if you're afraid of someone giving someone some freedom, if you're afraid of your partner going, I want to see someone else, if you're so dead scared by that, you feel so threatened by that, that means you're weak as fuck. Like that means you're just a low value dude. Only low value people will be scared of that. But if you're truly, truly high value,
that's it. And you're scared that you could be replaced that easily.
Exactly. You're scared of that, right?
Yeah.
Or the other implication too is like if you're saying no, once a cheater, always a cheater, right? People always say that. But think about the implication there, right? If you're saying no, Jeff, I'm the brightest lighthouse in the fucking world, but my partner still wants to leave anyway because she's a cheater. You're saying that she's so fucked up that she's not capable of thinking that she chooses the wrong lighthouse no matter what. And if that's your insinuation, are you sure you're the brightest lighthouse?
Yeah.
Or are you just a big asshole?
I think so.
There should be no mystery why your partner's leaving, right? It's funny.
But it always goes back to, like, I know that it's only in phase one, but I go back to those illusions all the time, thinking about them all the time. And that good enough illusion is such a big stumbling block for people, I think. And you kind of have to keep coming back to yourself and saying, yeah, I mean, kind of proud of how far I've come, but I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. Yeah. I'm not planning to be a little bit better than that guy. I'm planning to be 1,000 times better than anyone I can meet. Like, I'm planning to keep going and going and going.
But even then, so before we wrap up this point, I just want to say again, the summary is if you are a guy watching this and you're saying, what a fucking simp. These two guys are here wearing the fucking flower shirt and this guy in the hat. Fucking simp. Think about what you're saying there. Because what you're saying is, like, the reason why your partner was having an affair in the first place is because you react in that way.
Yeah.
Because you think you're so perfect. Yeah. Because you insinuate so many negative things about your partner. Because you're so much in denial about what you need to do. Because you're so blind to actually your own shortcomings. If you're all these things, guys, if you play victim like that, that should be no wonder. It should be no mystery why your partner wants to get the F out of there. It's like, again, the guy screaming out from the lighthouse, screw you guys. Right? It's like, dude, if you're doing that, it should be no wonder.
Geoffrey, I mean, the guy that my wife's seeing, he's starting to do all of these kinds of things. And I mean, from that same toxic mindset of, oh, I can't let you move back in with him. That's that's just wrong. I'm a man and I can't let you move back in with your ex. And it's like, well, she's going to, because that's what she wants to do now.
Yeah.
And the more you resist that and the more toxic you are about it, the further she pulls away. So it's not simpy at all to just basically realize that you can source everything you need from within yourself, and you can have that power to say, you live your one life and I'm going to work on me.
Yeah.
That's powerful as fuck.
That's powerful. And, the other powerful thing, I want to stay on this topic for a bit more because you just revealed something in my mind. It's like one of the things that changed my mind back then was when my partner said, like, Jeff, do you realize that I am my own being? I'm not you. I have a separate happiness than you. And I only have one life. The same way, Jeff, you want to live your one life and you want to meet the most beautiful woman. You want to have the happiest relationship. You want to be as rich as possible. You want to be as successful as possible, as fulfilled as possible. You want to do all these things. You want to cross out all your bucket list, right? Well, I do too, Jeff. I only have one life. And right now, my relationship with you has become a nightmare.
Yeah.
So who are you to tell me that me wanting to see other people, me wanting to leave the relationship with you because I want to cross off my bucket list? How is that wrong? Wouldn't you do the exact same thing? Yeah. Like, what is wrong with you? How could you say that it's my fault? Yeah. So you're saying, like, I need to sacrifice my whole life, my whole desires, what I want, to stay with a guy who doesn't even understand, who makes me miserable and doesn't even understand how miserable he's making me. Are you kidding me right now? That woke me up. I was like, fuck. That was powerful.
Get it. That would be. I mean, like that point, I think that you helped me come to a similar kind of a realization with that whole part of the program on Fey bias and when I was able to, I think you said something like, you need to be able to say 100% that if you were them, you would have said, felt, done exactly the same thing. If you can't reach that point, you have not understood them.
Mm-hmm.
You've not actually felt what they felt. If you can't provide that full set of contexts,
right,
how this all came about. And yeah, I mean, getting to that point, it was just amazing for how much understanding could be built. And it takes such a load off me, because instead of self-victimizing all the time about that, like, this isn't fair, it's like, well, it is fair, dude. You are the one who stuffed things under the rug for 8 years of marriage and a few years before. You stuffed everything under the rug. You're the one who was defensive every time she tried to bring something up. You were the one who, we have an analogy. It's not quite the lighthouse one, but it's an analogy that my wife actually came up with. And it's like, at some point when she met me, I was the sun, like shining down, bright, warming her to the core. And then storm clouds. It became really, really cold and windy, rain. She felt exposed. She felt for years like she could die of exposure out here. Right? And this guy comes along and he's an umbrella. And I needed to realize that I was that shitty weather. I needed to slowly change that back to sunshine. And just because I've done that, she's got an umbrella now. And she's like, I don't really need the umbrella anymore. And she wants to put the umbrella down because she can feel the sun, how bright the sun is if she just stepped into the sun. And that's kind of where we were a couple of months ago. That's the analogy she used. But it was all me who created that storm.
That was you. Yeah. And so, guys, I cannot explain to you just when you get out of this mindset of affair is bad, no affair is good, you need to stay loyal for the rest of your life and so on. And when you get out of that and you actually allow yourself and also your partner, and you give yourself the pressure to grow, to become the best, because like, when you allow freedom like that, you allow competition. And when you allow competition, you better be the fucking best, right? Yeah. Like, you don't become the best just by shutting out the competition. No, let the competition happen. When you allow that competition to happen, you grow. And when you actually choose each other after that, that is fucking magical. Because now, like, my partner, like right now, my partner, right? She's planning her bachelorette party in Vegas. And I'm like, a lot of guys childish who are like, "Oh, careful, dude." I'm like, I don't even give a shit. Like, she will go to conferences. She goes to all these places. People hit on her all the time. She comes back to me and says like, "Oh, they're kindergartners compared to you. They're kindergartners."
That's right. This is so right. This is like with the dating app thing. Like she looks through it, and we're like, we had to look through it. She's like, I'm gonna delete this. This is stupid. Because one, she's not really looking. Two, she doesn't want to make things more complicated. And three, she looks at them and she's like, they're all like juvenile. They're all fucking losers. Like, none of them look as good as you're in the photos, like, or if they do look good, then they're weird, and they like, do you have a cat? It's like, where's David? Like, where's David? The standard is quite But yeah, so she's going to Vegas and you're not worried at all. I fully get that. It's kind of like this thing of, she's not going to run into another me in Vegas.
No way. Forget it. The same way, like, she lets me go places. She lets me go places. She lets me do things. And it's like, we don't have to worry about it so much. Yeah. That's a really blissful feeling of like, no worry. But I want to talk about this good enough illusion thing.
Yeah, sure.
I think for me, there are two reasons why people think they're good enough. And we see this a lot, even for people who haven't even joined the program, right? Sometimes me and Jason Newman, we look at these people who are like, no, I'm good enough as it is. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're literally saying your relationship is dying. You're literally saying you're struggling. And then the next sentence you're telling me, like, I'm good enough. Like, are you kidding me? So I think the one reason why people fall for the good enough illusion is that it's just a problem of like a low glass ceiling or a low ceiling. Right. So the great example I have here is, imagine you are a 2022 runner. You run sub 10 seconds for the 100-meter dash all the time. It's a normal thing right now. Then you find a time machine and you transfer yourself back to 1930s, where nobody ran a sub 10. Nobody ran sub 10. The people in that 1930s would think they're the shit. They would think they're the shit, right? And without a time machine, without you going there in the 1930s, nobody asked the question, am I good enough?
Mm.
But because they never asked the question, nobody was able to run sub 10. But you know what's funny? If you compare human beings 1930 and human beings 2022, we didn't change that much. Maybe we grew like a little bit taller, but still like we can run sub 10. Like there's short people running sub 10, whatever. Right? What changed? Between 1930 and 2022, what changed? The only thing that changed was the way we questioned ourselves. Because once someone broke that barrier, we go like, oh, now I'm not good enough anymore. If I'm not good enough anymore, I better find some answers. And once you find some answers, you realize, oh, what I thought was good enough was not even close, man.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with you with the program, I think, right? Before you joined, you were 1930s and you're like, I'm pretty sure level 10 is like the highest I can go. I'm like level 7. I'm not that bad. Right? Yeah. I'm not that bad. 7 and 10, not that bad. But then you join the program and you see people playing at level 20, 25, and you're like, oh, I'm an F right now, right?
Yeah.
So you have to break through that ceiling first to see, no, like what people are playing at a very high level, your competition is very, very high. And so in the program, we say, don't pretend that your partner, your competition is not some Joe Blow, right? Pretend your competition is me, Jeff, but a model version of me, right? Who's like perfect in every way. That's your competition. And not only are you going to beat him, your goal is to 10x that guy. That's how high I want you to aim. Right? That's how bright you have to be.
Has to be. That's really true. Hey, it's really true that whole thing of you can't sort of set your sights down here on these things. And I mean, I see it. I think I've mentioned this in a few posts recently that I see some people in the group talking about this other guy is gonna get, he's gonna have entropy in, and the honeymoon period's gonna end, and it's gonna finish up for them, and I'm gonna be standing there going, I'm amazing, come back. And I often think to myself, I mean, like, well, what if he's not actually this douchebag that you think he is? What if he's actually your wife picked this person.
He's obviously better than you.
Yeah, they've got to have something. They've got to have something, don't they? Being arrogant at that point is just stupid. And I mean, just finding out those things and like being able to find out what those missing elements are is something that you can't even do if you're not untethered and no fate bias and no self-victimization. You can't even have the conversation to find out, so where am I not good enough, honey? What were you disappointed with? But that in my case, like finding out, that was quite a list of different things that I had gotten comfortable about. Quite a long list of stuff that I wasn't doing anymore. And
it's interesting. So it goes back to the concept of like a perfect process or perfect product or outcome, right? Because I think a lot of people, whenever their partner's having an affair, they would say, like you say, "Oh, it's okay. I'm doing this program, so I'm better than him. And when he fucks up, I'm gonna be there to rescue her." But it's like, you can't just tell yourself you're better and be better.
No.
Right? Because the very fact that you thought that is gonna rob you of so many opportunities to learn. It's almost like when I was playing golf, right? In athletics, whether it's racing cars, golf, whatever, it's always the same philosophy. You either offensively push to become the best, or when you're playing a game, for example, you're waiting for the other person to fuck up. If you're relying on the other person to fuck up, then you will never be world class. Never. Yeah. You will always be complacent. Right? You should never assume the other person's going to mess up. You should always assume they're going to be perfect, and you have to be more perfect. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I
Yeah.
mean, like this other guy, sometimes it's quite like I want to like sort of tell people in the group, like, so he's never done this program, but sometimes he will do things like he will just perfectly understand a really tough truth that she throws at him. She'll be testing him and he'll pass with flying colors. Guys in the group, girls in the group, get ready for them to pass some tests to actually surprise you, to surprise your partner. You need to 10x.
10x that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we hear people say like, oh, I think I'm creating safety. Oh, I think I'm I think I'm bulletproof enough. I think I'm empathetic enough. Okay. By what standard? Your standard or like objective standards or really difficult standards? Like what standard? Because if you say, yeah, are you creating more safety than you did before? Sure. But is that enough?
Yeah. Is it enough?
No. Yeah. So like the harsh reality is with these things is like, people always talk about bettering themselves, right? Being better is not enough. I'm sorry. In life, being better is never enough in life. If I want to be doing this business and being the best in my industry, I got to be the best. I can't just be better. Yeah. Doesn't make sense, right? So just change the paradigm on that. Don't be better, be the best. Have that high expectations from yourself. But also, I think the other reason why people have that good enough illusion is that they're what we call doing they're chimpanzeeing, right? And this is something, this is a rough one because it's like they're always, so the way they motivate themselves is through the outcome, right? But if let's say they are this level, right, and their outcome is here, they start to get complacent. What do? They just create a new outcome that's further away to create more dissatisfaction, to push them along again. But the truth is like, eventually, you're going to realize that doing this is very, very tiring. It's very exhausting. Yeah. You're not going to enjoy the journey. And eventually you're going to say to yourself, you know what? I'm close enough. I don't want to move this anymore. I'm good. Right? It's very sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about chimpanzeeing quite a lot, especially earlier in the program, but not quite in that way. I was thinking in terms of like, jumping for other outcomes, trying to meet someone else, all these kinds of things, or like, yeah. But that's an interesting one. It's very true though, isn't it? It's sort of you can easily see yourself, instead of really loving the process of making yourself better and building safety and building admiration, of actually just like, I got some good results from that. Therefore, I need to try, like, what's the next good result that I can get? Okay, I can maybe try to campaign on this and I'll get a good result there. And then I can find out what's going on with that problem and I can solve that. And that, it's like,
right.
Eventually you're going to miss a branch.
Right. So I think like level 1 untethering is about like you have a fixed goal and you work yourself towards that goal. That's level 1 tethering.
Yeah.
Level 2 tethering, or being untethered, is when you're chimpanzeeing now. You're still doing something for the outcome, but you're just moving the outcome further and further away, so you never create the satisfaction, so you never become good enough. But eventually, you're going to hit a ceiling there because you're going to get tired. But level 3 is when you don't even think about the outcome. Like for me, for example, right? I don't think about my income. I don't think about how much I earn. I don't even think about that. I just go, okay, what is my process now? Let me love doing the process without any expectation of an outcome. And I'm improving my process. And all I'm thinking about is, how fast am I going? Not where am I, but how fast am I progressing? If I'm progressing faster, then I'm doing something right. Right? That's it.
I just want to say for 1 second, this whole thing of like, you're talking about your business, talking about other aspects of your life, the program has changed so much about my life at the moment. And I mean, if I think of I talked about the storm cloud and the umbrella analogy, the thing that created the storm cloud was self-victimization around work, working crazy long hours, feeling trapped in the job that I do, all that kind of stuff. and never having enough time to do this, never having enough time to do that, all that self-victimization. And then around the kids, not knowing quite how to, parent perfectly and create this ideal situation where the kids are perfectly well behaved all of the time and keep the house clean and don't stress their mom out, and this whole thing. And then through the program and through what you were just talking about there, about like sort of like continually setting your goals and then quickly moving up, setting goals now about my work stuff and like finding my low tides and kind of fixing up those low tides and fixing the whole web of my existence. And so like if like my work was probably like the center of the web has a hole in it, was my work. And then like fixing, like you could fly a bird through this spider web. This is a useless spider web at the moment. And just this program helping to kind of like methodically and systematically work on those weakest points and build them up. And then it's just been incredible. And I guess I know you talk about this in the group, and for anyone listening and kind of thinking this sounds like quite a lot of work and this sounds pretty hard, but you're not trying to do it all at once, are you? We're not trying to make all these changes in 5 minutes, and you're not trying to suddenly turn around and be this completely different guy overnight. It's all one rabbit at a time that we're catching here.
But it's the thing, though. I don't think anybody besides yourself is looking for that quick fix, right? Like, because a lot of people be going back to the urgency thing. A lot of people feel this urgency because they think like, I got to do something fast. I got to show my partner like I'm perfect right now. Like she's leaving right now, Jeff. I need to show her why she should stay right now. I don't have 3 months. I don't have 6 months. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
But what's funny is like with your story, with so many other stories, at time and time again, we show the exact same thing, which is your partner is not looking for you to become perfect. No. Your partner is looking for you to have the perfect process. Are you on the right trajectory? If she can sense that you're on the right trajectory, you'll be amazed at how long she will wait. Which is why we say there's no urgency. The urgency is all made up by you because of all your wrong thinking, wrong paradigms of how you think about how reconciliation works.
100%. I mean, like we've had conversations about this recently where there was some resistance and tough truths and kind of like some hard stuff that came up to come along with her moving back home. And of course, it's going to bring things up. And that whole thing of I'm just basically like, I don't necessarily have the answers for this. Mm-hmm. And I'm just feeling like it's so great that we can now talk about this stuff. And I don't have answers now and you don't have answers now, but I have faith that we're going to get to them because we can talk now. We have the skills, with the process.
Yeah, we have that process. Exactly.
And she felt the same thing. She felt like, I'm sure we're gonna figure everything out eventually. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah,
the process is there.
But that's like real confidence, right? People always think like confidence is about being the perfect product. That's confidence. But no, like confidence is thinking to yourself, I don't know what problems I'll face in the future. I don't know what solutions I'll think about. I don't even know the solutions right now, but I know that I have the perfect thought process and the right thought process and the right, I guess like steps to eventually get to the answer. That's real confidence. That's like the quiet confidence where you're like, I'm not scared, right? The other confidence where you think you have to be perfect, that's fake confidence. Because you're going to find times in life where you don't know the answer. And you're going to fake.
And that's going to rattle you.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, that's when people lose their bulletproof vest and everything. That's when people go, because the resistance is a challenge and a threat. And, and like if I look back to the old David, like in the past, that defensiveness when there was some conflict and trying to sweep everything under the rug, it was that fear of not having this all under control.
Yeah. It's such a man thing to feel, right? Like such a man
dumbass man thing to
Okay, so one thing I want to talk about too is before you joined my program, you obviously explored other things before this. So, in our program, we do things very differently. You like you see this, and I think it's hard for people to adapt to that culture sometimes, right? And just to describe some of the culture, right? We play very, very tough love. Very tough love, right?
Yeah.
We are also very selective of the clients we choose to enroll. Like if I don't care if you're the richest person in the world. Okay, you tell them, you beg me to go into the program. If you don't have the right mindset, we're not taking you in. We're not taking you in, right? This is a place where the client is not always right. Follow us. We ask you to surrender. It's almost like a very cult-like space, I guess, right?
It kind of has to be. You're not going to be able to unstick all of the mess that's in our heads and unpack everything if you're still going to be so set in I'm right and I know what I'm about and just tell me the bits that I'm missing. That's not going to work.
So I think the first thing I want to say is almost around this notion of, because like, this is what we hear from people all the time, right? Jeff, why would I take your program if I can take some other program for half or quarter of the cost? What would you say to those people now that you've been in this program and you've explored others? What would you say to that person?
I think if I was confronted with that question, all I can say is that just the way that the course is structured and the way that it's sort of built every step of the way, you build this sort of super strong foundation, and it's all logical. It's all experience based. It's based on the thousands of clients that have come before, and it's essentially you're not gonna come to a place where with any other program it's structured in such a logical and scientific way. And if that appeals to anybody at all, like if you've ever done a course that worked for you, if you've ever learned, I don't know, if you've ever learned to drive a car, right? You don't want a course that's just going to throw you behind the wheel and then tell you about, rules for overtaking. It's like, mate, I need to be able to like put it into gear first. I need to know where the indicators are first. Yeah. Geoffrey will take you through from the beginning, and it's the funny thing is that you might start the course and think, I know all of this stuff. This is no, there's so much at the beginning there that people kind of try and zoom past almost, and that stuff's the best bit, because like the process of success, getting rid of the victim mindset, when you learn these basic things at the beginning of Geoffrey's program, it unlocks everything else. And suddenly you're realizing, like, so the reason I've been a screw up at work for the last 15 years is because I had this failure to learn, failure to iterate and improve my processes. I didn't have process of success. That's why I'm still only like lower management level in this company. That's, you'll start to be like, wait, so, and then what? But this is the beginning of the program and I'm already 10 times better than I was before I joined a few weeks ago.
Yeah. You know what it is too? It is something I realized, right? So, okay. I think I'm going to be controversial here. I think the problem with a lot of other programs around relationships, mindset, just more soft skills than hard skills, is that they assume they can teach it the same way as to teach hard skills. What I mean is this, right? Even if, let's say, I teach you about the victim mindset, you will not understand how you are falling for the victim mindset. You cannot even see it. The same way life has been giving you the same lessons for 30 plus years, right? It's been trying to tell you these things. And you have all these like great quotes and all these great paradigms living in your head, but then you never realize just the full implications of it.
Oh,
until someone makes you realize it.
Yeah.
So you see it for yourself, right? It's like kind of that thing. So they teach victim mindset. Yeah, you might have been taught victim mindset before, but levels. It's all about levels, right? And the problem is that most coaches, they don't go to that level. It allows you to see the depth of like how you're falling for the victim mindset. Also, they don't teach you how to change your mindset of learning to learn towards soft skills, not hard skills.
Yeah.
Right? To see through your blind spots, to see through your bullshit,
Yeah. Just as something as simple as note taking. Like, I've always been a poor student in the way that I take notes and the rigor with which I record my learnings as I'm going through a course. I would often be someone who'd sit through a lecture and I'd have like half a page of scribbles. When you sort of started explaining early on in the program that your mental map and how that should work and what purpose it serves, suddenly that whole note-taking thing that's been sitting in the back of my mind for my whole life is like, that's why I should be doing this. That's why I should be doing this properly. And my mental map now is like it's too big for Google Docs. Like I moved it to Word. It's so structured, and it's got quick links all the way through it. And I mean, it's things like that. It's like you could tell someone victim mindset, but unless you teach them to recognize victim mindset when it occurs in themselves, unless you teach them to actually pick it up and spot it in others and spot it when you see it in the TV and in the movies and the books, and
right,
you need to be able to identify it. And that's something that this program will teach. And then not only that, but the program will teach you how in phase 2 to actually, okay, I have victim mindset. How do I come up with another mindset that is the polarization of that, which is positive and which is the mindset I should have and I should carry through my everyday life? Hero mindset. And suddenly you're going through every day as a hero. You're going through every day thinking, what can I do? What can I control? And that changes everything. And then the insane part, the really insane part is not only does that change everything for you, but you start talking to your wife, your husband, partner, and eventually they start to recognize the victim mindset in themselves and in others. And they start to assume the hero mindset themselves. And they start to fix all of their problems just through being next to you.
Yeah.
It's insane.
A great example of that is we talk about the antithetic mindset, right? Which is what we're talking about here. It's like the antithetic mindset is such a big, it has so many implications. And there was this group of therapists who were saying like, oh, Jeff talks about this antithetic mindset. He's just making this big word out of nothing. He's basically saying compromise. I'm like, no, you idiot. No. Right? No. This is a classic example of like someone who gets taught a principle, but they don't understand the bigger implications of it until they see it, right? But a great example of this is like, okay, why did you, David, get blindsided by this whole divorce? Your partner wanting to see other people. Why were you so blindsided?
I was hypothetically thinking about everything. I had like my view of what everything was happening and why it was happening, and this is the way it should be, and this is the way it's always going to be, and this is how relationships work, and this is my...
So let me give like a more specific example, right? So we talk about safety, how emotional safety, when that's broken, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But the thing is this, when you break emotional safety, you will never find out.
Yeah.
Because your partner's not going to tell you from her non-emotionally safe state that she's emotionally unsafe. She's never going to tell you that because she can't tell you that in the first place, right? That's the whole point of not having no emotional safety. So emotional safety destruction lives in your blind spot, and it will stay in your blind spot unless you learn how to question it antithetically. So for example, you cannot ask the question, how am I creating safety? You have to ask the question, how am I not creating safety? You cannot ask the question, how does my partner feel safe? What is she sharing? She's sharing a lot. You have to ask yourself, what is she not sharing?
Yeah.
How am I destroying safety? Right?
Yeah.
Once you change the way you question the world, you start to see different answers. And I bet if you question the world differently like that, you would never have been blindsided. Right? Which is why if you look
100%.
at great... Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Like
we were talking about this the other day.
So
we were talking about this the other day, and she was saying like, what was it she was saying? But essentially, if I had found out about her feelings when she'd met with her ex in like 2016, and if I'd known then, if she'd felt safe enough to express then that she was having doubts, then we were thinking about simply it would have started triggering all of the questions. It would have started triggering this whole process of asking, wait, what, so you're not happy and you don't feel safe, and what's going on? And that whole thing would have started rolling a lot sooner. It just really needed an exploding point to get to the point where she could finally say, I'm not safe, I'm out of here, bye, and then run. It needed to come to that moment of like beyond Sorry, Geoffrey. One of my small children is just
No
at the
worries.
door. I just 1 second.
Yeah.
I will definitely let you have a snack. I'm on the phone now with Geoffrey.
Can Margaret get me something?
Yes.
What are we going to?
Margaret, can you please get Mary a snack? Thank you. Off you go, Sudie. I'll see you soon, okay? Can you please close the door for me, Mary? Good girl. Sorry, Geoffrey.
That's horrible. So funny.
I remember, did they pop in on any of our calls that we had in the past? Did they join?
I don't think so. I think this is the first time I've seen them. But
Maybe they were asleep. Maybe they were asleep last time.
But yeah, I find it funny too because like this whole antithetic mindset thing, right? The way it changes the way you question your world. Not only will it help you learn faster, it'll help you like realize the objectivity of your situation faster. It will help you discuss things with your partner differently. It will help you come to win-wins easier. It will help, like, I cannot tell you just
the good enough illusion as well. It helps you find what you can change about yourself and what others have that you might not have, and all these kinds of things. Definitely.
Exactly. It's so massive. And I think a lot of coaches, they don't teach that. And so you take, so like you basically
I can't imagine how their course will.
What was that?
I can't imagine how their course is going to work if they don't teach that stuff, to be honest.
Well, let me tell you how it's going to work, because I joined a lot of the courses before because I was sleuthing them, right? And so you know, what's his name? Tom Wild.
Okay. Yeah. Tom. Yeah.
He has probably poached over 25 clients from other courses to our course. Over 25.
Nice.
It's a lot of people. Like every time I hear from Jason Newman, I'm like, oh, he's from Tom Wild. Okay. But he sees, they see what's going on in the other programs, right? So there's a lot of negativity, a lot of confusion because
I need
people
to go to the toilet and Margaret's in the other one.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey.
no worries.
Margaret goes in that
You can go to my one. Go to my one. It's okay. It's okay. Good girl. Sorry, Jeff.
Okay.
So Tom Wild's been recruiting, and that's awesome.
It's so funny because he sees what's going on in the program. It's a lot of confusion because what people are doing is they're learning new concepts with their current paradigms of thinking.
Right.
Start twisting and bending everything they learn to what fits what they want to know instead of what actually it is, right? It's just a nightmare. But the other thing also is like, you know, I remember you telling me when you first joined and you had that initial call with Jason Newman.
Yeah.
He had to basically lay down the law for you and say, like, whatever you think you know, let me tell you why it's BS, and let me tell you this other thing, right? And what I find is that I need to do that quite a lot with a lot of people, especially when they join like Marriage Helper, all these things. I have to like undo the work that they have done in other programs and say, like, let me just like deconstruct it for you to make sure that you start from a slate, like a blank slate, and let me rebuild it up for you. It's almost like when you're building a house, you can hire a cheap contractor and they can build a house for you. But it's going to be so many flaws in there that you're eventually going to have to destroy the whole thing down,
build it again,
and build it from scratch. Like same thing. And so when people want to like go for cheaper programs, you can do so. But cheaper programs does not mean you get like a 50% version of this. It might mean that you're going in the wrong direction there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't imagine any other program where they're putting in more work on the development side of things than you're putting into this program. Because I mean, when I joined, you were rolling out parts of like the third iteration of this program. And I looked at some of the older parts of the program. I kind of looked through everything, and there were shorter videos, less modules, still covering amazing stuff, like I could see that there must have been a lot of growth from phase, like the version 1 to the version 2, but then the version 3 is like next level. It's all of the things that you spotted that people were screwing up, all of the ways that people were falling down, every pitfall you had addressed in those modules. And then if that's not enough for people, there's the Looms and there's the Facebook group and there's, you know, it's, no one's going to get more value for money anywhere else. I can't imagine it being possible. The amount of effort that has been put into making this program actually give proper results and work for people and be effective. There's no voodoo kind of shit in this program. It's like this will work, and it'll work because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me show you the science behind it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like last thing I want to address is like the tough love too, because you know, it's funny, right? You say that because you saw version 2, you saw version 3, but there's a lot of people who are going to come in here who will see version 3. What's funny is that people still freaking complain about version 3. You see this. It's like, how can you complain about version 3? Did you see version 2? Did you see version 1? Did you see how people are still succeeding despite the fact that it was version 2? And now you're given all this and you still not enough. Like, when is it going to be enough for you, right? And it's again that playing that victim mindset again, which is why we say to people, like, we give people tough love, because we say to people, well, why is it that you've been alive for 35 years, 40 years, and you never learned these lessons that I'm teaching you in this program? Why? Because nobody ever gave you tough love. Nobody ever gave you the lessons that you need to learn and took away all the sugar. They give it to you
100%.
straight in a cough medicine, right? So you're always getting all these lessons, but you can never see what the lessons are trying to teach you, because you're like, it looks fine. Can't be that bad. Whatever.
You gave me a fantastic, I think it was only February 18 or February 20 or something. I'd only been in the program for a couple of weeks, and I came in with a post that was chock-a-block full of TBUs, and I outcome
TBUs is true but useless.
True but useless,
So,
yeah. And I was worrying about what to do when we got back from the Korean holiday. Like, she'll be seeing this guy again, and I should do this and I should do that, and ultimatums. And you basically told me then very straight, you haven't learned anything. You clearly weren't paying any attention for the last week or so. You've rushed, you've missed all this important stuff. If you want to keep screwing up, fine. Otherwise, go back to the beginning and start again. Don't waste our time. Here's a whole lot of looms as to how you're screwing up. It's like, you might as well have slapped like an idiot stamp on my forehead. And I was like,
the dummy hat. Wear this dummy hat, sit in the corner, learn it.
But I knew you were right. I knew you were right. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna do then. And you need that. People need that. And I like you said at the beginning, I get probably a dozen or so people a day reach out from the group. A lot of them new people, and they're asking for advice, and they're asking for help, or they're scared to post in the Facebook group, but they don't know where to go. They don't want to book a coaching call yet. They're too shy. And there's so many different reasons why they come. And sometimes those people will be coming to me because they've faced resistance in the group, because they're just not getting it. And they're not trying to overcome that victim mindset. And they're still trying to hold on to their old sense of self. They're not emptying their cup. They're becoming uncoachable. And they come to me and they want me to be their buddy and hold their hand and tell them everything's going to be okay. And a few times I've had to, the tough love thing, I have to say, what you did for me, you're self-victimizing, you focus on TBUs, just list out the ways that you're
all the
screwing
wrong
up.
things you're doing right now.
You're screwing up.
Yeah.
And
stop blaming other people. Like stop blaming other people for your fear, for your failures. Like people are like, why are people always so mean to me? Why are people always so giving you? Why are they criticizing me all the time? Well, what are you doing right? I'm sorry, you're gonna be honest, exactly. Right? Are you following anything? Yeah.
And I've seen one or two of these people have actually I've maybe even blocked them in the end.
Oh yeah.
And I've said, I have things to do. I have stuff to do, and I cannot help you. I cannot hold your hand anymore. I'm going to let you go back to the group and make your posts like I suggested, read what I said, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And then they've come back a month later, and I've talked to them again, and they've finally overcome that BS, and they're like,
I said that to you.
Yeah.
But this is a systemic problem. It's the last point I'm going to make. This is a systemic problem with the coaching industry, right? Especially now with this culture where we're so afraid to offend people. And the reason why is this. So if you look at, I was reading Dope Sick about the opioid crisis in America, right? And part of why it started was how hospitals were incentivized. So in America, hospitals are privatized, right? Which means that each hospital system is competing with another hospital system. And the key success criteria that were being rated on was how pain-free, how comfortable the visit was, right? If the visit was comfortable, then they would rate it high. If it's painful, it would rate it low. So what did the hospitals do? They overprescribed oxy, painkillers, and they create a painkiller addiction. But they don't care because all they want is that review, right? Same thing for coaching too. Most coaches, if you look at the reviews out there, it's all about how comfortable it makes people feel, right? I felt so good in this program. It's so inviting. It's so nice.
Oh, no, guys.
Whatever.
No.
Right? And so when I play tough love, I risk getting a lot of bad reviews. I risk it and I get scared of that. But I know I have to. But a lot of coaches, they don't have the balls to do that. Right? And so you create this environment, this culture where all these coaching programs, they're not telling you what you need to hear. They're telling you a very sugar-coated version that's not going to wake you up. And you leave feeling comfortable, but not getting any results. But it's a problem, right?
That's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
Like what do I do as a coach, you know? Like, do I keep doing this, tough love, or do I play the game, so to speak, right?
I think that you've balanced it quite well as well. In the start of the program, you kind of come straight out in phase 1, module 1, and say, this is what the program's going to be like. This is the approach that I'm going to take, and this is why I take it. This is the only way you're going to get results. We're not here to, there's an Australian expression about we're not here to fuck spiders, and that's perfectly applies to this situation. You're here to get results. I hope you've come here to get results as well. You've paid your money. You signed up. You chose this. So I can definitely, just that story about the opioid crisis. I saw that this is kind of off topic, but Purdue got sued for like 10 billion or something.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Good.
All right, David. That was an hour 40 minutes, I think, which is one of the longest ones we've done. But that was so fun. Like that flew by for me.
It was really
so. Thank you for dedicating so much of your time for this interview, guys. If you want to dive deeper into like all the things, all the layers that David was talking about here, and really get the internal growth that you're looking for, right? To become that brighter lighthouse in a way, the brightest lighthouse, and to get yourself in this position where you cannot lose. Like, it's really hard to lose with that. The only way you can lose is if you play shortcuts, you try to pull your partner in, get fake reconciliation, and then realize that it's nothing, right? That's the biggest loss, I think. So you want to get real reconciliation here, real growth. I would encourage you to check out my masterclass down below this video. It's going to be an hour and a half long, the masterclass. At the end of it, we'll give you an opportunity to apply for the program. Be sure to pay attention to the application process because we do only take in less than 10% of applicants. So we are very strict on the people we enroll because like David said, if you look at the program, it's a very different culture than most other programs. So yeah, that's it. That's my spiel. David. So right now, there's a lot of people probably watching who are in your situation where their wife has left, has checked out. They're probably like looking at other relationships. They're feeling angry. They're feeling betrayed. They're feeling devastated. What would you say would be the last piece of advice that you would give them? The one thing that you would give them to say, like, think about this and you'll be okay.
Oof, one piece of advice.
The hard one.
Stop self-victimizing. Like, just stop. You can't do anything if you're not the hero. Be like Sam Gamgee in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Frodo walked away. Frodo went off with Gollum, right? Frodo said, I don't need you anymore. Go home. And that must have hurt, right? But he didn't go home. He followed Frodo. He saved his ass several times. And he literally carried him up to the top of that mountain to help finish the job. Mm. Stop self-victimizing. Be the hero.
Yeah. Stop blaming things outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Look within first. And I always tell people, like, always choose to succeed despite, not fail because. Yeah. Victims always fail because of the million reasons. Heroes succeed despite the same million reasons. What do you choose?
That's
all right,
exactly.
Man. So I know it's morning for you down in Australia,
Geoffrey.
Down under.
That's it. Start the day now.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll invert your video for the actual thing. All right, David. You have a good day, okay? Tend to your daughter. All right, man. Bye.